9, so we are going to go right ahead and begin this session. We've just finished a powerful session with B. Jackson for healing from narcissistic abuse, suffered in the mother-daughter relationship, and that was excellent. I'm looking forward to. I am looking forward to. Just bear with me, somebody's. I'm looking forward to the workshop tomorrow evening with B. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce Philippa, and then we are going to get started. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce. Philippa was at our very first retreat that we did. Our very first retreat that we did, Philippa was there, and people are still talking about that retreat. So our Philippa is Phillippa Smith is a creative arts practitioner. She has a wide range of interests, including music and drama. She believes that there's a strong link between the arts and its impact on our health and well being. These interests have allowed her to work not only on a local level, but also nationally and internationally. She runs her own voice academy, as well as creative coaching and consultancy services. Philippa loves to serve and believes strongly that her gifts are to be used to benefit others. And she does do that. I know that because we benefit from it. The children asked today, Mom, when does our confidence building session start again? So when teenagers do that, you know that she's doing right. Philippa and I met, I don't remember how many years ago, but we were at a retreat together and connected. And it we so you so resonated because I know how powerful music is for healing. And so when we talked and I heard what you did, I just knew that God wanted something. And we didn't know what it was going to be, but he's shaping it up, isn't he? So
Absolutely.
I'm gonna hand over to Philippa for her to lead us in this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joanna. Yes, it's such a privilege and a pleasure working with you. And as you said, when we first met, we were excited. I remember how excited we were because we knew that something would come of it and we knew that God had his hand in it. And we just didn't know where he was leading us. But like all things with God, we always know that he leads us in green pastures. So it's wonderful. So thanks again. And hello and welcome, everyone. I have a presentation, so I'm just about to share
Nice.
that with you now. And so we'll begin. While I'm getting my presentation up and running, I would just ask if you haven't got something already, if you could just grab a notebook and or just a piece of paper, that's fine, and something to write with. So you'll just need paper, and you'll also need a pen or pencil, something that you can write with, because this is not just about me talking to you, even though I will be doing a fair bit of that. It's about me, it's about all of us, in fact, sharing together, and hopefully we can all participate. That's how this workshop works. It's about participation. Okay, so if you've all got, then we will begin. Okay, just a second. Okay, can you all see what's on the screen? Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. So we'll start. Okay. All right. So as Joanna says, I'm Phillippa Smith. I'm a creative, performance artist, who uses various art forms to explore, and to express and communicate my own work. So you will be able to. I'll just show you my details. So this is me, and you will be able to find me at those addresses. Don't worry if you miss it now, because what you'll be able to do is, at the end of the session, I will make sure that I put that back up again if you do need to contact me at all. So I teach singing to individuals and groups, and I help people find their voice, which is what this workshop is about. Find your voice. And I help people to love and explore the potential in their voice. And I help people who are struggling. As Joanna said, I do confidence building workshops, help people who are struggling with confidence. And I use the arts to conduct various other workshops as well. So the thing I love most about my job is, first of all, being self-employed. So being able to, be my own boss. But also the fact that it's so varied. So, for example, one day I could be making a film or working with film. The next day I could be directing theatre or drama. I could be working with young people, I could be working with the elderly, I could be writing or singing or recording, so that's what I love the most. And I really do believe that when God gives you gifts, we're to use it not just to benefit ourselves, but also to benefit others. I also believe that the arts and music is an integral part of life, and it can deeply impact our health and our well-being. So, what will we be doing today? We're going to be doing our Find Your Voice workshop. So today I'm going to be talking about the reasons why we lose our voice and how we can find it again. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, you will need pen and paper, especially towards the end, and you'll need to be willing to participate as well. So, what is the voice? What is the voice? Um, Before I can talk about the voice, I think it's best if I define what the voice is. So we need to know what it is, okay, if we're going to find it. So here are some definitions from the English, from the Oxford Dictionary. So the voice is, number one, the sound produced by a person's larynx or uttered through the mouth as speech or song. Or number two, a particular opinion or attitude expressed. Okay, so it's the sound produced by a person's larynx, and there's a lot of technical jargon that I could go into, which I won't tonight. But that's basically what it is. It's the sound that's produced by the person's larynx, and it comes out as a speech or a sound or a song. But secondly, a particular opinion or attitude expressed. So here we can see that there's a physical component as well as a psychological component to the voice. Usually when one talks about the voice, they're referring to the sound that comes out of their mouth. So you can hear me and you think, yep, that's the voice. But tonight I'm referring to both the sound and also the expression of opinion. Because I truly believe that you can't have one without the other. See, for every sound that comes out of our mouth, there is usually a thought, there's a process, there's an opinion, there's an expression. So when I refer to the voice, just be aware that I'm referring to both, not just sound. So what's important about the voice? Why is the voice so important? Well, in a word, expression. The voice is an important part of who we are. It can tell us so much. We communicate with our voice and we can express emotions and ideas. The voice can give clues to where a person is from. It can give clues to their age, their gender, how we're feeling, and of course, our personalities. And we're often defined by our voice. We're defined by the sound we make. I'm sure already, if you don't know me, you're thinking, this person is like this, and she's like that. People sometimes make decisions as to whether they even like you, depending on your voice. Okay, so let's have a little bit of fun to start with. Okay, I'm going to play a voice for you to listen to. Okay, and I just want you to listen, and then I'm going to ask you a few questions about the voice that you hear. So just listen to this voice. Just need to get it to load again. Shouldn't take long. Okay, right.
Hello everyone. I hope you are enjoying the conference and I wish you all the best.
Okay, right. So you heard that voice, and now I would like you to hopefully you heard that voice. I would like you to write in the chat what you thought. Okay, your thoughts on that voice. So I'll ask you some questions about the voice. Okay. So was that person a male or female? Okay. I think most people have said female. Okay, that was pretty obvious. Yeah. And how old do you think they are? Okay, some said 40s, middle-aged, early 30s, right? Okay, 40s. Okay, all right. Um, Lovely. Do you think that person is confident? Is that a confident person? 28 to 35. Okay. Is the person confident? We've got a resounding yes. Okay. Fair, confident, yeah. Okay. What type of personality, in a word, what type of personality do you think they have? Bubbly. Okay. Polite, upbeat, mellow. Interesting. Okay. Polite, yeah. And what do you think they do for a living? Admin. Okay. A bit rigid, someone says. Maybe a teacher. Broadcasting. Nurse. Okay. Voice actress. Wow. Okay. Brilliant. Bright and pleasant. Admin. All right. Now that's very, very interesting. And this is what you have um, deciphered, perhaps, if that's the right word, from this person's voice. I can tell you that the person is female, yes. And how old are they? Well, most of you said it, they are 40 years old. Um, is the person confident? Most of you said yes. Yes, the person is confident. Also, what type of personality do they have? I asked, and most of you said bright and pleasant, bubbly. I would say exactly so. This is a person I know very well. And then I asked, what do they do for a living? And you said voice actress, and you said maybe a teacher and things like that. I'll tell you this, the person is an actress and she's also a teacher. So she does both. Now, isn't it amazing how you can listen to a person's voice and tell so much? Doesn't mean that we'll always have it right, but there is so much we can learn from a person's voice. Human beings are unique. We're the only species to use our voice in the way that we do, and we're the only species to be able to talk. You might say, well, what about parrots, for example? They talk. Well, when I was born in the UK, and I spent the first 5 years of my life in Jamaica. And we had a parrot. Our parrot was called Pretty. And this parrot talked and rarely stopped. As a child, I'll tell you, I was fascinated by this parrot and his vocabulary. But as I grew up, I later learned that Pretty, along with any other animal that seemingly talks, are just mimicking the sounds of human speech. But you see, we as humans, by design, have a very special gift of voice. Because we're different, we have the power to reason. And that's what makes us different. So, with our power to reason and our use of language, our voice is truly amazing. For without the human voice and our reasoning abilities, life would be very different. We would be like Pretty, the parrot, just able to mimic sounds and copy everyone else. And the fact that we've been given a voice means that it's there to be used. But sadly, some of us have lost our voice, maybe at some point or another. And the voice is one of the keys to well-being. It's so important to well-being. We all know people who have bottled things up. Maybe we ourselves have bottled things up over years. And by bottling things up and not using our voice, it puts us in a very dangerous position. Sometimes our voice is lost, and we don't even know that our voice is lost. For example, you might struggle to speak in public or to stand up for yourself, and you may not even know the reason why. There are many factors that may cause these inhibitions, but the fact is, if we're not able to use our voice, then we know that there's something wrong. Do you notice how a young baby or even a toddler has no problem using their voice to express themselves? But as we grow, we often lose the ability to use our voice freely. So you may be saying, okay, so you've talked about the fact that we may lose our voice, or maybe you can think, yeah, maybe I have lost my voice, or maybe at one point I did lose my voice. But how can we find our voice again? Well, to do that, two things need to happen. The first thing is we need to recognize our state. You can't find something that you don't know is lost. So we need to recognize that there is something lost, our voice. And secondly, we have to have a resolve to allow change to happen. We have to be open to change. You can't have one without the other. So we have to recognize and then be open. When I was much younger, a young child, I had a friend and she was mute. She had never spoken a word in her life. My friend was kind, she was loving, super clever. And as children, we would beg her to talk. We would say, please talk to us. But as we looked into her eyes, we could see that she just couldn't, even if she wanted to. And so we'd then feel sorry and stop pestering her, or at least for a while until the next time. No one knew the reason for her being mute. not even the medics. And it was so distressing for her family. But we were all so desperate to hear her voice. Sometimes her slightly older sister would speak up for her, especially when we as children kept asking her to talk. Her sister would say, "Come on, leave her alone, and try and distract us. Let's do this over here instead." Because her sister knew and understood the pain that she was feeling, being so close to her. Eventually, we lost touch, myself and the family, etc. We lost touch. But some years later, we reconnected. And the day we met again, I had the biggest surprise of my life. My mute friend was talking fluently, as though she'd been speaking all her life. I couldn't believe it. Each time she spoke, I would just be gazing in their eyes like, wow, for prolonged periods. I can't believe this. I'd marvel at the fact that she had finally found her voice. So, how do we lose our voice? Well, to put it bluntly, through negative situations. When we experience trauma, physical sickness, abuse, loss, hurt, and any form of pain, we can lose our voice. We often don't realize the effect that a negative situation can have on us. Like my friend's sister, there may be times when someone will have to speak on our behalf and have to advocate for us. But the good news is we don't need to despair. Because if we've lost our voice for whatever reason, rest assured that with the right help, support, and of course, by the grace of God, we can find our voice again. You know, when I was a child, I had hearing problems. And I say that to maybe play it down a bit. It was bad. There was a point in my life when someone would be standing right in front of me, literally a meter or even 2 meters apart, and I could not hear them. And from a very young age, I learned to lip read. And I was very good at hiding my problems, trust me, to the point that my teachers and those around me were unaware of the severity of my hearing loss. From a young age, I just thought, if I can hide this, no one will know. But it caused me a deep sense of fear. You can imagine the anxiety that I lived with. I had fear about getting things wrong and also a fear of failure. For example, when I was asked a question, I was worried that I would get the answer wrong due to not hearing what the person was saying. You can imagine as a child being at school and being asked a question, a simple question, the last thing you want to do is get it wrong because they might think, she's not bright, she's not very clever. So I lived with that fear. Eventually, I gradually began to withdraw. I began to lose my voice. And those who didn't know me well referred to me as a shy girl, a quiet girl. But what they didn't know was that I actually was a very confident and outspoken child. But it was my situation that caused me to slowly lose my voice. And, I'm sure if we all think back, we can all think of a time where our situation caused us to lose our voice. So now I want to do a little activity with you. And I'd like you to use your papers, and I'm going to give you about a minute or so, not very long, to just write down a time in your life when you felt that you lost your voice. So I'm not talking about being hoarse, okay? What I've talked about, that emotional drive that helps power the physical voice. A time where you felt that you lost your voice because of a negative situation that happened. A time where you did not feel empowered to use your voice. I'd like you to write that down on your paper. And then also, once you've written that down, just have a think. Ask yourself, did anyone advocate on your behalf? Just have a think. So I'll give you a minute or so to do that. Okay, just 30 more seconds. Okay. So, is there anyone who would like to share that time? You don't have to if it's something that you'd rather not share, or if it's too personal to you, that's absolutely fine. But if anyone would like to share, then now is the time. If you want to share what that situation may have been when you felt that you lost your voice.
I don't mind going first.
Okay, go ahead.
So many, 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 many times. But one I'm choosing is when I was in hospital last year, January, and I was in this corner room and it felt nice because I was on my own. I didn't have to watch TV and I didn't have to do anything, in the big ward. I didn't have to talk or anything. And then the Friday, when I was in there for a week, the Friday, the nurse just came and said, right, we have to move you now, put you and start to pull the bed down. And I had no time to adjust. I had no time to come to just to kind of get used to the idea of being with other people. She told me, she pulled the bed down and she moved me out. It was just such a shock. There was no, of course, no advocacy or anything. And I went in a room with people talking all the time and the TV was never off. And yeah, it was just such a different feel, different environment. I'm glad I only spent one night there before I had to come home. But yeah, I felt absolutely powerless. Like I had no voice. I had no say. I couldn't say anything. It was not going to be heard.
Mm, okay, thanks for that. Anyone else? Okay. So in my situation, when um, when I wasn't able to hear, um, I had a best friend who the story of us becoming best friends is a long story, so I won't go into it, but we were close. We were like sisters. And um, I would do my best to lip read, as I said, but there were times where the teacher may have turned round and be writing on the board and I couldn't see. And so every single thing that the teacher said, I'd have to ask my friend to explain to me, because she sat next to me, what it was that was said. And as I said, it went unnoticed because my friend and I were probably the two top students in the class. She was, I would say, just above me, and then I was there sort of trailing behind because I always had to depend on her. And when they finally found out about my hearing and my problems before I had a couple of operations to fix the issue, they were shocked. They said, "Wow, how did you get through school, do so well at school, and not be able to hear?" And I remember, sitting thinking about it and saying, it was my friend. It was that person who spoke for me, that advocate. And so often when we lose our voice, we have an advocate. And in Joanna's case, you didn't have an advocate. So when we do have an advocate, it's a real blessing. So why is it important that we find our voice? Well, it's important that we find our voice because our voices are a source of power. Our voice can express and defend our beliefs. It can tell our story, like I just did. It can resolve conflicts and clear up misunderstandings. It can teach and guide people and keep them from making mistakes. It can disrupt prejudices, challenge assumptions, and so much more. There's so much that the voice can do. So without it, we're placed in a very vulnerable position. Why? Because we lack power. We lack the power to express who we are, the power to say how we feel. We lack power to defend our beliefs, power to resolve conflicts, power to hold others accountable. We lack the power to teach, to pass on what we've learned, and we lack the power to empower others. So, knowing all this, how do we find our voice? Well, as I mentioned before, we need to recognize our state. So, our first step is recognition. It's important to recognize if we've lost our voice and to come to terms with the reasons for this being the case. Without admitting the problem, we can't find a solution, and then we can't heal. See, as a singing teacher, I can usually tell very quickly the state of mind of my students just through their voice. Often I can detect trauma, I can detect sickness, I can detect their mental state. I'm not a doctor, but with the years of experience, I find that I'm seldomly wrong. So, for example, I'll just give you some examples of a few of my students. So, I had a particular student, let's call them student one, um, and she had contacted me and she said that she wanted to have some voice lessons. Um, and I said, okay, and we arranged. She came along to see me, and the very first session, we didn't talk much about her so much. I just said to her, all right, because the lessons for singing lessons is usually about 30 minutes, so I like to get straight in. Um, so I said to her, let's do some scales and warm up and take it from there, because I wanted to classify her voice to see, where she was. So I started to play, and as she started to sing, the minute she opened her mouth, I thought, something isn't quite right here. And I continued playing, and I got higher and higher, which I would do. I usually start from low to high. And this person went higher and higher and higher. She went so high, I don't think the piano even had keys enough to accommodate her voice. And immediately, just from the way she was singing, I thought, I need to talk to her. So I stopped and I said, is everything okay? And then she began to share with me, and as a result, I realized that she was having a real mental sort of distress, and she had some real issues that she needed to deal with. In fact, so much so that I said to her, let's see if we can sort that out first, and then we'll come back to the singing lessons. So often I can usually tell. There's another student, for example, called student two. She's um, a professional. She's a scientist, and she is very great at public speaking, for example. And when she first came and she began to sing, um, the nerves and the tension in her voice made me realize, I'm not saying that if you're singing and you have nerves that something is necessarily wrong, but just from that I was able to see that this person had a lot of deep rooted issues again. And when we got talking, she then began to share about some things within the childhood that had affected her ability or her confidence in singing. And some of these things go way back, and there's so much more that I could share with you. For example, people that are physically ill as well, often I can hear that and detect that in the voice as well, which is really important. So one of the drivers that can help people to find their voice is a determination to help others who are in a similar situation. um, but before we can help others, we have to first try to help ourselves. Once we recognize that we have lost our voice, we shouldn't be ashamed to ask for help. There are many ways to find your voice again. This could include, uh, seeing a counselor, for example, to work through the pain, find healing, going to conferences like this, doing a series of drama classes or singing classes or confidence building classes or creative writing, anything like that. Because when we've lost our voice, it's so important that we intentionally try to find that voice. And it's also beneficial to keep a journal. I can't recommend that enough, or a diary of your thoughts and feelings. And it helps us to see where we're coming from and how God is bringing us and leading us into the future. And we could write poetry, write songs, or any other form of creative writing. It's often easier to express on a page before we're able to express verbally again. So that's a really good way. And also, tell your story. One of the greatest ways to bring about healing and to find your voice is to tell your story. No one else can tell your story. This can be done in so many different ways. Not everyone's going to write a book or speak to large audiences. Some may write a song or write a poem or do some spoken word, or for some it might just be sharing to individuals one-on-one or small groups. But whatever the channel or the outlet, there's healing to be found in telling your story. And we heal through expression. Expression is a way that we can heal. Do you notice that there's no end to our ability to communicate and to express through our voice? Our voice is versatile, and there's a reason for that. Expression is just one of the ways we can heal, because as we express ourselves, we hear ourselves talk as well, and that's when healing can take place. But one of the ways that I like to express is through music. And as we're talking about find your voice and music, I'd like to encourage people to do that. But how can we use music to express and find our voice? You might say, well, I'm not a singer, or I can't sing. I don't write music. I like to listen to it, but I don't like it, for example. But you can still express yourself through music. Music is not for the elite or just the musically talented. It's a gift for everyone. Music can be learned. Don't forget that. And it can also be developed. So, saying that, I would like to do another activity. So, this activity is, when I asked you to think back of a time, hopefully most of you, even if you didn't share, you would have written something down on your papers. This time, write down, so we've done that, write down a time in your life where you felt you lost your voice because of a negative situation, where you did not feel empowered to use your voice. So now I want you to either use that situation or maybe something else that's come to mind. It could be something deeper than that, than the first thing, or it could be that what you've written down. I want you to write 4 lines, just 4 lines of encouragement to yourself, from yourself. Okay? So you're going to write 4 lines of encouragement to yourself, from yourself, or from an outsider speaking to you. So there's 2 perspectives. It can be from yourself to yourself, or it could be someone on the outside who's speaking to you. And if you think, oh, that sounds a bit tricky, just think of it like maybe a poem. Okay, doesn't have to rhyme. It just needs to be 4 lines. Okay, I thought I would do the exercise myself and just give you an example of something that I wrote today. 4 lines to myself. So these are my words, and this is from my perspective. So you might choose to do it from your perspective or someone else's. So this is from my perspective. So that's me talking to me. So here are mine, and it's to do with the fact that as a child, I wasn't able to hear. In fact, it's a miracle. And I love God's sense of humor. The fact that for someone who couldn't hear to use their hearing to make a living and their voice, God is amazing. So here are my words. I cannot hear, but I know God is listening. I feel so lost, but in Him I am safe. And my third line is, uncertainty is all I'm sure of, but there is power in His name. So those are my 4 lines for me speaking, perspective of me speaking to myself. And in case you want to do it from someone else's perspective, I've also done one from someone else's perspective, same thing, but I've just changed it to show you how it can also work. And this is from God's perspective. Okay, so this is what this says. It says, you may not hear, but I'm here listening. You may feel lost, but with me, you are safe. And I can solve and heal your problems, for there is power in my name. All right. So same kind of thing, but I've just done it from two perspectives. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes, 3-4 minutes, just to write your 4 lines to yourself. Pep talk, a pep talk to yourself. 4 lines. Got 2 minutes. Thirty more seconds. Okay, so has everyone written something? Hopefully. And if so, would anyone like to share their words to themselves or from someone else's perspective, their pep talk?
I'll share.
Okay, who's this?
It's Marlene.
Hi, Marlene. Thank you.
I'll put my camera on because it's not nice to speak to a black screen.
Okay.
Yeah. I have written, well, I'll tell you the reason why I've written what I've written. I've written what I've written because I feel that my trauma has affected how I speak. And I tend to sometimes, depending on what I'm trying to explain, get kind of jumbled. So what I've written is you will find your voice again. I do have a voice in some respects. I would say quite a lot. But it's just a matter of finding the right, being able to articulate myself properly. So I've also put, God will lead me to the exact help and support I need. He has never forsaken me, and he won't start now. And then the next one I put is, God has fought for me in the past, and he will continue to fight. So I don't need to be discouraged. Yeah, so that's what I've done. And there's a couple others, but I haven't finished writing it, so I'll leave it.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you so much. Brilliant. Okay. Anyone else like to share?
I'll share.
Yeah, lovely. Is that Alicia?
Yeah.
Okay, lovely.
Mine's from the perspective of God speaking to me.
Okay.
I may be silent, but I am listening. All I ask for is a little faith. Continue to communicate. I hear your heart's cry. Let go and trust me. Let me lead the way.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Really touching. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to share?
I would like to share.
Yeah, is that Natalia?
Yes.
Okay.
This is, I wrote it, I'll just read it to you and then we can, I don't know, I think it's a perspective to myself.
Okay.
So it is, you were strong, you was honest, be at peace and leave the consequences with me. Continue speaking your truth respectfully. And that would be God speaking to me. But originally then I remixed it to, I was strong, I was honest, I will be at peace and leave the consequences with God. I must continue speaking my truth respectfully.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much, Natalia. That's really, really beautiful. You know, I love the fact that you said you read it and then you said, and then I remixed it and said this. Yeah. I don't know if you kind of caught on, but basically what you're doing, you're writing a song. You've written, that's your first verse. Okay. So the first part that you did, that was your first verse. And then when you said you remixed it, that was like your second verse. Yeah. So you're part way there. You're part way there. You all have done that. Marlene, Alicia, you've done the same thing. And, you know, if we had more time, or even if we were in person, then what we would be doing is I would be playing some music and we would start to either sing those songs. And if you weren't ready to sing, then someone else could sing it for you or to you. Yeah, because that's there's real power in that because those words are coming from our heart and it's so, so beautiful. Is there anyone else? I don't want to miss anyone. Is there anyone else that would like to share? Maybe one more? No? Okay, that's absolutely fine. Um, it is there anyone who's shared that may want to sing their feels brave enough to maybe even try singing their song? Has anyone found their voice tonight? No, but it will come. It will come. It's a process. It's something that takes time. It's not something that's just, yay, I've got it. Yeah, it takes time. It's something that we need to work on. We need to recognize and be open to change. And this is just the beginning. So I want to encourage you, what you have started to write, I would like you to finish writing that. Okay, so you've got at least one verse. Some of you have two. I'd like you to now put a chorus to it and then a third verse. Okay, so the chorus is going to be something that you would like to be repeated, something that's the underlying part of your message or of what it is that you're saying to either God or God to you. Okay, and then the third verse will be like the first verse or the second verse that you have written. Okay, so that's something that I would love you to do. So we've got about 4 minutes left, and I just want to leave time for questions or comments. I know that I think there's a question in the chat. Let me just have a look. Is that Natalia? Would you like to, because you've put it to everyone, haven't you? So Natalia, would you like to sort of explain your question? And maybe if I don't answer it, someone else might like to comment as well.
Okay. I was asking this because I've been doing a lot of work, like on myself in therapy and stuff, with literally what we're talking about tonight, with finding your voice, speaking up, being able to be at peace with, you know, who you are and expressing who you are. Like, I'm a person that is very expressive with who I am, and I've always been called emotional because I do tend to cry a lot if I'm feeling down. I'm very expressive. So my question was, if you have found your voice and if you are using your voice, and it's almost as if by you using your voice, it's coming with a massive consequence, because now your character is being sabotaged, because you're speaking your voice, but it's being like, people are experiencing you as being disrespectful because you're doing a new thing what they may not be used to doing, like being honest with your emotions or honest with how you feel. It's like, oh, you're disrespectful, you've got no manners, you shouldn't speak to big people like that. This is like a scenario with like myself and like older women in my life. I feel like I kind of clash. So I think it's amazing to find your voice, and I thank God that I am being comfortable with using my voice, but then the backlash comes with it. So that's where my question kind of came from, Phillippa.
Okay, okay. And it's funny that you say that. I was thinking about that this morning. In fact, I was thinking, while I was thinking about finding your voice, I was thinking to myself, okay, so what happens when you have a group of friends, for example, and they're used to you not saying anything. So they might speak to you a certain way, they might do certain things, and they're used to you not saying anything. And then you find your voice and you become very vocal and you start to express. And what happens then? Well, the thought that I had this morning was, you're going to lose some friends. Unfortunately, some people only like to be around us when we don't have anything to say. But the moment that we have something to say, and the moment we find that expression, and the moment we find power, we lose some people. But the good news is we gain some people as well. We gain like-minded people who are for you, who are for the fact that you have found that expression, that you found your voice, that you found the power as well. I must say, finding your voice isn't about, and I know you're not saying this at all, isn't about becoming necessarily rude or obnoxious, but it's about being vocal enough or brave enough to express what it is that God has put in you to say. And that's the main crux of finding your voice. So yeah, thank you for that. That's really, really interesting.
Thank you for answering. Thank you.
You're welcome. Someone else has just said that they've started singing, but they're not brave enough to freestyle yet. And that's fine. That's fine. As I said, we don't have to be, and it takes time. And also we need to set ourselves goals, set ourselves, just think, okay, this is what I'd like to do, and let me go for it. But it takes time. We shouldn't pressure ourselves either.
I
Okay,
think
so sorry, go ahead, Joanna.
just on Natalia's question, the session before, Natalia, and you'll get the recording of that. I think they tie so well together, because sometimes the people in our lives that struggle with us being expressive and expressing ourselves authentically, it's their problem. but they can project that on to you, because finding a voice and being able to express it doesn't mean that you're rude. It just means that you're learning how to set boundaries. It means that you're learning how to be honest. You're learning how to say, this is not okay for me and I'm not doing it anymore. As you're learning how to do that, the people in your life who aren't changing, they'll find that uncomfortable. And B did a really good job in talking about, as she did the wheel in talking about, so what are we going to do if we're going to stay in their lives or allow them in our lives. Then we have to do so with the knowledge that they are who they are and that they're not going to change. Doesn't mean that you change to accommodate that, but it just means that you know the kind of people that are in your life and you know how to operate with them, and just know that it's going to be hard, and have a support system. But what that can do sometimes is when we're expressing and we're learning and we're growing, the people who don't like our expression will try to stamp it out. They'll try really hard. And as Natalia said, the names that you get called, like disrespectful, that's meant to make you quiet. That's meant to make you lose your voice again. Like, if somebody calls you disrespectful and they're old, it's like, that means I can't say anything, but you might not be disrespectful. You might just be honest and expressing yourself. So I'm gonna send the recording for that Beat did. Watch that, and also continue to express your God-given voice, that nobody's supposed to turn it off for us. Nobody's supposed to make us not be able to be fully expressed, because we're individuals and we're a whole person in his eyes.
Absolutely. And there's a quote actually that I want to share with you, and it's by Stephen Covey, and he says, "Find your voice and encourage others to find theirs." Because when we let our light shine, when we find our voice, it encourages other people to find theirs. And often, so many times, when we keep quiet, we don't realize the damage that we're doing, not just to ourselves, but to others around. And so, as we find our voice, then we encourage others. And Austin Kleon, he says, the only way to find your voice is to use it. And it's as simple as that. If we're not using it, we're not going to find it. That's the only way. So I would just like to leave you with those thoughts, and thank you so much for taking part, for sharing. I know it's not always easy, but it's just so lovely to share together and to grow together. I will just put this up on the screen so you can take that down. If you need to contact me in any way, then feel free, and I'll leave that on the screen while I just say thank you and hand back to Joanna.
Thank you, Philippa. And Philippa is doing another session on Wednesday
Yes, Wednesday.
on music for healing. So we're going to go a little bit deeper. Somebody said that I think it's hard when it's family or in-laws that don't want you to express your voice, and you suppress it to keep your peace. It's damaging to us personally. Absolutely. That is
Yes.
very damaging. I know someone who used to go hoarse, literally go hoarse, because they would have so much bottled up that they didn't want to speak, that after a while they just wasn't able to speak.
Mm,
And they attended a workshop similar to this and find out that the being hoarse was not a physical health problem, but it was because they weren't expressing themselves and was locking everything in, and they'd lose their voice after a while.
absolutely.
So it's so important to speak. But I know, yeah, sometimes people will try to put us in position to not make us speak. But I want you to know that as you're doing this and you're healing, you'll know that you won't be able to not express yourself. And so then the people that are in your life will change. They'll have to. If they are not prepared to change or grow along with you, you'll naturally leave them behind. And it doesn't mean that we cut people out, or we just learn how to operate in different circles where we can be fully ourselves. So tomorrow we are having building relationships that last with Allison, and we're starting a little bit earlier tomorrow, 5 o'clock. But there's going to be a gap now. If you can't attend for the time or any reason, then we will of course we'll do the recordings. But please refer to the schedule that we send. We send everybody a schedule. If you don't have one, just say so in the chat and I'll email you one. But please refer to that. And then after Allison B, B is back, and she's back at, what time is it? 6 p.m. That she's going to do the workshop on the healing from narcissistic abuse. And then we're having Greg Davis, who's doing men abuse and mental health at 7. And then I am doing, is that the 23rd? Yes, I'm doing sexual intimacy after sexual abuse. And that one is going to be powerful. I'm looking forward to it, even though I'm presenting. So that's what's happening tomorrow. But I'm looking, we're finished a little bit earlier tomorrow. Tomorrow we finish at 9:30, I think. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow. If you don't have a schedule, please do let me know. But apart from that, thank you so much for coming and for your contributions, and have a wonderful night.